welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's so nice to have you. Reeva, so for our viewers who may not be as familiar with you, could you please introduce yourself to our viewers and tell us a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. My name is Reeva Sheehan. I'm the Senior Director of Customer Insights at Impulse Mobile. I'll tell you who Impulse is in a moment, but my role here is Senior Director of Customer Insights. I really manage a lot of voice of customer. I run our NPS surveys, manage our Customer Advisory Council. I monitor all of the happenings in the regulatory space, so CMS, NCQA, primarily health plan, healthcare related, and really ensure that the products that we build and the services that we deploy meet the needs of not only our customers, but the clients and the individuals that they serve. So Impulse Mobile, in a nutshell, we're the leader in conversational AI. So we are a mobile digital member engagement organization. We work primarily within healthcare. We have over 200 leading healthcare organizations as clients and have delivered over 1 billion touch points on our platform annually. So bringing all of that together here today to talk about customer experience, which is near and dear to my heart. My background prior to Impulse, I've been here for 3 years this week, actually. But before that, I worked at a health plan in Medicare quality and then pharmacy operations. So that's my background. So trying to bridge the gap between the engagement vendor space as well as health plans.
Thank you, Reeva. And AI is such a buzzword. Every industry event, every conference that I've attended or spoken at, there's always some question, some insights around AI and its use in CX and journey work and research in general. So I think we'll have a great discussion today. From your perspective, Reeva, when your management, when your CEO come to you and they say, great job, what are they really counting on you for?
Sure. So in this role, which, is very similar to my time in Medicare Stars of, you always hear this cross-functional and collaboration, like it really is. I joke that I work with every single department within our organization except for finance, but then I actually do work with finance a little bit too. But a large part of my role here is collaboration and learning. And so I like to share my knowledge, my industry expertise, share with other teams. So we've got our sales directors, our client success folks, product teams, technology, really everyone to help understand what is the market asking for, what are folks buying, what do we need, what are trends that are coming down, maybe from a regulatory space or within the industry that's kind of driving some of those needs. So we have kind of 6 core functions here within Impulse: accountability, thrive, recognition, collaboration and learning is one of them. So for me, in my role, truly being cross-functional, I would say that kind of, job well done, or from a CEO or a member would be, or manager would be in that space of really helping connect the dots, helping our other teams understand the underlying needs of our customers and our consumers.
That's great, Reeva. So let's dig in a little bit deeper into that. So when we're talking about these different cross-functional teams, you talked about marketing, PR, sales, operations. When we focus on improving the customer's experience, right, and in better understanding the customer, what are some of the challenges that some of your teams are faced with that they come to you for help with?
I think for starters, there are no two that are alike. Sure, do we all work within the same field? The majority of our customers represent health plans, Medicare and Medicaid lines of business, but they're all very different, right? Everyone is different. A lot of them have the same general objectives, but it really is kind of understanding how we're maybe apples to oranges and apples to pears and not apples to apples. So that's probably the biggest challenge. And then for us too, it's not just our customers direct to Impulse B2B, but it's the people that they serve. So the work that we do is really understanding that end user. So understanding the individual who's, let's say, for example, a lot of work we do is like appointment reminders or preventive screening reminders, that sort of thing. So the end user, we need to think of them also as the consumer or the customer. So we've kind of got 2 layers of customer satisfaction and work that we do within that.
That's great, Reeva. And to to double click on what you just said for our viewers, a lot of times in our practice, we also get approached by clients that are like you, either they're servicing large enterprises or even the large enterprises themselves. And often, when we look at the end user or the end customer's journey, my experience has been that often these interconnected teams within an organization, they're often looking at the phase of the customer's journey that they are closest to in terms of their daily engagement. And often internally, what we've seen is sometimes people are speaking the same language and sometimes they're not. And it just depends on what stage of the customer's journey are they engaging with or they're engaged with. That is also why when we first started doing CX work and customer journey work, one of the things that we did in really bringing internal stakeholders together was to do these hypothesis journey sessions, which was done without us doing any research or any primary research or secondary research outside of what a client gave us. And our brief to a lot of these internal stakeholders was, we've created a hypothesis journey of what your customer is going through from start to finish. Now come help us butcher this document. And a lot of times what happened was we would have someone, one stakeholder, let's say someone in marketing, stand up and say, well, I like what you guys are talking about here in the customer's journey. This makes total sense to me. But then someone in another department would get up and say, oh, really? This makes no sense to me. I never see these issues. When the customer approaches me, then they're always talking about X, which I don't even see listed out here. As researchers, as CS experts, we are just taking notes when those discussions are going on, because for us, they are truly identifying the gaps in understanding that exist. But it becomes a big team building effort when these sessions are done, because it also helps one department look at the customer from the lens of another team member. I don't know, have you had any similar experiences?
Yeah, so similar experiences, and as you're mentioning that and the different stakeholders, a huge part of specifically Medicare Advantage over the last handful of years has been the customer experience. Back in maybe 2017, I think it was, CMS decided they would lend a louder or bigger voice to the beneficiaries, and they changed the weighting structure. So how much a measure is worth around these customer experience measures from, at the time, it was 1.5 to 4. So customer experience measures for Medicare Advantage organizations account for almost over 60% of that overall score, right? And that is a big challenge for plans. A big piece of that is the CAP survey, which is it's a blinded survey, random sampling of membership. It's a consumer assessment of health plans or healthcare providers and systems, so the payer and the provider. But the challenges there are, it's a lens to a huge part of your score, but it's a really small subset of your membership, right? So what health plans a lot of time in general will do is they'll put their efforts to what we call like at the front door, right? The individuals of the members who are frequent flyers in the call center, they're filing grievances, they're filing appeals, they are knocking on your front door, right? So I call those the A's and B's and the Y's and Z's. They're the outliers. Now, I'm not saying that they aren't important, but when you think of the member journey and when you think of all of the different types of members, similar to you've got different types of departments within organizations, they all matter the same. So how do we really understand and assess everyone at scale? And that's something that, I'm really passionate about doing here at Impulse, is to be able to help identify not only those A's and B's and Y's and Z's of the what's wrong, what's not working. We have a whole subset of members in between there that maybe things aren't going well for them, but they're just not voicing their concerns quite the same, or what's working, right? I think a lot of times we find that in this customer experience space, folks tend to focus on the negative, what's broken, what's wrong, which is very important. But you have to know what you're doing right as well, so that you can replicate that or duplicate those experiences to those individuals. So really, I think some of the challenges come when we look at customer experience from a star ratings or a quality improvement space. Is it's hard. How do you get better scores? You take better care of your members. Well, how do we do that, right? Customer experience, there are no tangible real numerators and denominators like there are for diabetes screenings or preventive screenings and that sort of other side of quality improvement initiatives. So I really think it's important to understand the full scope of, if we're looking at, again, MA, Medicare Advantage, membership and customer experience, you have to look at everything. And similar to our customers, no one individual is the same as well, right? So we could be in different parts of our journey when we're going to do journey mapping. If I'm a member who's new this year, I'm going to need different things than I'm going to need 3 years down the road at the beginning of a new plan year, right? So I think the importance is there is just being able to really understand your customer, your consumer at the end user level, right? And then how do we get those cross-functional teams to work together so that we can really provide a good customer experience and give you the journey you need and me the journey that I need?
That's such an excellent experience, Cher, and thank you for doing that, Reeva. Something that you said really made me chuckle internally when you talked about how sometimes internal stakeholders tend to focus more on the negatives as opposed to the overall holistic viewpoint of what's going on. That sometimes, as a practitioner, becomes a challenge even for us, even after having done this work for several decades, because especially within the domain of CX and improving the customer's experience, people do tend to, and this is just not limited to your organization. I've seen this happen across the board, where you're reporting 92, 93% positive scores, then people are like, that's great. What about this 7%? What about this 5%, 6%? And I'm like, guys, don't be hard on yourself. These are excellent scores. Let's look at it in context of this overall journey. So I think that's a great point you've raised, Reeva. I want to dive in a little deeper into that. In your case, when you're talking about the member journey or the patient journey in that case, can you walk our viewers through any recent customer journey or patient journey project that you've done? If you can please talk about, what was the need to do the work and how did you go about it?
Sure. So this really comes down to great collaboration and strategy sessions with our clients, because we can have best practices from an industry of engagement or which channels to use and what time of day do I message folks, that sort of thing. But in order to really help deliver and make improvements, we had to sit down and work hand in hand. So for example, a client to sit down if they needed to, not only looking at customer experience, but retention. So we had to find out, why are people leaving the plan? So we need to look at all sorts of data. And this is also, I think key in that just general CAHPS and Medicare Advantage experience space too, is you have a ton of data at your fingertips. And as a true fashion, it's always siloed, right? It lives here and someone owns it here, here, and here across the space. So we sat down with a client to look at disenrollment reasons. So why are people choosing to leave the plan? We're looking at grievances. What are known complaints? We look at utilization within different subsets of members as well, to all kind of identify where are opportunities or areas where we can help improve that experience and provide a relevant journey. So one example would be a new benefit that was created out of plan based on member feedback. So for example, diabetics were being asked to go get a retinal eye exam. It's part of a star ratings measure. We're sending digital communications, helping people schedule appointments and be seen. Well, then they were having a poor member experience, because if they didn't have a buy-up vision package that year, they were getting hit with a $35 to $50 copay that hit the specialty tier of their out-of-pocket expenses. So now that leads to not a great member experience, especially if they didn't know that was coming, right? So how can we fix that? We want them to get the screening. It's important to their health. It's important to these quality improvement measures. Let's just remove the cost share. or, the client remove the cost share altogether and say, if you get one of these screenings each year, it's no cost to you out of pocket. But we want to deliver that message appropriately. We don't necessarily need to tell everyone that diabetics now get a free retinal eye exam, but we want to let those folks know, right? So then you're parsing out kind of that membership and the communication space to only tell the relevant audience what's in it for them, or this is what we've done based on feedback you shared with us. This is something we created for you. And then those that don't fit into that space, they get an alternate message, right? Perhaps there's something else that's more relevant to non-diabetics as far as their copays or cost shares. And all in the effort to be transparent, all in the effort to create better experiences and also move the needle on those important clinical screenings. So it's looking at the data. How did that tell us? That prompted us to, hey, we should remove this cost share because it's prohibitive, or we're not getting the results we want to see, or people are complaining, hey, you told me to go do this thing and now I've been hit with a $50 copay. Like, that didn't seem fair, right? So it's really looking at the data, understanding member behaviors, understanding benefits, resources, and all of those things that are already embedded, and making the most out of them, or getting the most out of that as well. So that's one experience where we really had to sit down and look at reasons and find commonalities amongst the membership to then deploy specific messages, or messages that were specific and relevant to that person, right? So if I tell you something that's relevant to you, it's going to mean more than if it's just a, drop out of thin air message about something that doesn't matter. So that was really a key piece of that kind of retention play as well, is making sure that those messages and communications were tailored and specific to the individual. So I know we had kind of talked before too, of we have people also that learn differently, consume content differently. We're not quite as cool as TikTok yet, but I think that it's coming. But we have streaming health education, right? And people they're seeking kind of health medical advice on these streaming devices, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Reels, etc. So also understanding that healthcare consumers are still just that. They are consumers. They're choosing how to consume information. They're choosing how and where to spend their money, whether it be their health plan or their provider groups. So being able to reach folks with different types of information, as opposed to just maybe a text, email, or print, being able to share short stories with them and relevant to their own demographics too, right? So it's maybe a young adult male speaking to a young adult male, as opposed to an older female talking to someone in a younger generation. Or so we're able to pull in kind of some of those generational gaps, cultural sensitivity, different language preferences as well, which all I think lead back to that experience, right? When you're speaking to someone as an individual in their own language on the channels and the platforms in which they want to consume that information, you're going to tend to see much better, not only outcomes and whatever the objective is that you're asking that person to do, but also just the overall experience, right? Because it means something and matters to them as an individual.
That's such a rich experience share that you've provided, Reeva. Thank you so much. For our viewers who may not be as savvy with patient journey or the customer journey world that I know you and I live in, I wanted to just double click on a few items. So, when you talked about identifying a key pain point on that additional payment that a lot of patients, a lot of members were getting hit with, in the customer journey vernacular, that was a key pain point that you identified. And I wanted our viewers to note, that is one of the key benefits of doing any kind of customer journey or patient journey work. Not only are you looking to get a holistic view of the customer or the member or the patient journey that you are trying to better understand, but at the same time, what's also key is to be on the lookout for some of these key pain points. Reeva, as you know, these pain points often are nothing more than just moments of truth that were not paid attention to, and they were allowed to become pain points. And you and your team, through this research, were able to uncover this. And like you said, it also had an attrition play that was going on that you were able to uncover and turn around to your advantage. I want our viewers to also understand that that is one of the benefits of doing this type of work, where if you can uncover these moments of truth, and if they've become pain points, then if you can, also identify ways in which those pain points can be turned around to your advantage. I mean, this kind of patient journey, member journey work, as you know, Reeva, it becomes the gift that keeps on giving. In your case, the key business advantage was obviously not just taking away that pain point of that additional dollar amount that patients were getting stuck with, but then using it to your advantage to remove that attrition play that was going on. That is something that we recommend also in our practice is focus on these moments of truth, because these are also the key moments how one key stage of the customer or the patient or the member, how their journey stages are connected to each other. And focusing on these, Reeva, as you know, is so critical, because if you don't focus on these pain points, well, guess what? A competitor will.
Mhm.
And the patient or the member in your case will move to the next stage in their journey, in their buying journey, holding that competitor's hand. So that is, what is really, really important about focusing on these and uncovering them and using them strategically to convert and guide the journey in your favor, as you did. So I know you mentioned it, and like I said, a lot of these things are so commonsensical to you, but I want our viewers who may not have had your level of experiences with patient journey or member journey work to better understand how and what you had achieved in this wonderful experience shared. That's why I labeled it as wonderful, because I saw, wow, this was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of fun, and I do enjoy, some of that aspect of my work here too. And I think it's just a lot of, it does sometimes seem like common sense, right? But, in previous roles too, I've sat on the other side of the mirror in focus groups, and you just kind of shake your fist or you scratch your head of like, but we did that, we told you that, or we have that, but it's not getting to that individual, right? Because there isn't a one size fits all, whether it's our customers, the clients they serve, how you communicate with people. You can do an A for effort, but that's still not always enough. So it's really, I think, just getting a better understanding of your customers, which again, to your point, yes, they are consumers, and I keep staying in the MA space. That's probably where I've spent most of my time. But it used to be whoever has the best vision and dental package won the extra membership. Well, everybody has the best of the best when it comes to those extras and add-ons now. So that competitive edge in that market is really kind of flattened out. And so what stands out now? It's the experience. It's how are you treated? How are your needs being met? Are they being anticipated, right? Even ahead of time. We know a lot about behaviors, and we know, put yourself in the shoes of what happens from the time that you pick a plan and you say, okay, I'm going to sign up for that. It's the middle of October. It doesn't start until January 1st. It is a sweet spot for someone else to come in and take that member, right? What would you want to have happen in that time period? You would like some sort of reassurance that yes, what you bought is exactly what you wanted it to be. It's exactly what you purchased. It's going to be here for you when you start on January 1st. Here are a few easy things you can do between now and then, right? It's that reassurance, because you know what that individual can do come January 1st. They can change their mind and they can go somewhere else, right? You do not want that to happen. So it's really, I think, just trying to take a common sense approach of like, what happens with or to the individual in some of these moments along their journey, right? And how can we get ahead of that, or before it becomes a pain point, right? That now we have to solve and try to figure out, well, who's actually really upset. Let's just do a better job right out of the gate to begin with, because we know these are things that people tend to call and ask about, right?
Right. Now, Reeva, and in your example, you also talked about a clear business impact that this project had, which was in reducing attrition. I know we're almost at the end of our time, but I wanted to ask you one final question. From your perspective, given all the great learnings you've had in your patient journey and member journey projects, If you had the opportunity to do these again or on the next one, is there anything that you would improve or do differently?
I think the biggest challenge sometimes is just scale. It's being able to say, take a risk, right? Take a chance, do better is better an option. I think what we would probably do is maybe help our clients push their own internal teams for more, right? There's more opportunity out there. There are more members and individuals that we can engage with in really specific, meaningful ways outside of just this little thing that we found here, right? And so really, I think just kind of pushing to say, you're going to see a bigger lift if you can expand your reach. So a lot of things do kind of start in a smaller pilot space, which is great because that's where you can test and learn, right? But then being able to take that and really push back to say, hey, look, if we did this at scale or across this percentage of the membership, whatever, based on the data, that's, I think, where, in my experience, personally, in this case, I think we try to help them, because it always is not us pushing them. It's like, hey, if this is what you want to achieve, and having been on the health plan side of, I've got to get a little more money in my budget for this engagement solution, or I have to have more analytics resource to identify exactly who and what we need to do. But it's helping them paint that picture for their own organization as to how this is going to be beneficial for their membership. It's beneficial for retention, reduce attrition, improve experience, et cetera. So really just, I think, kind of tying all the pieces together and not losing an opportunity to get in front of someone or to move the needle somewhere else.
That's a great closing thought, Reeva, and thank you for sharing that. That is also very powerful. A lot of times when we get approached by clients that are looking to do similar member journey or customer journey or patient journey projects, a lot of times, a common request that we get is, well, we just want to better understand what they're going through and, what life looks like from their lens when the customer or the member or the patient is doing business with us. And our guidance to them always is, look, that's great. You have your research goals in mind, and that's fantastic. But then this is also an investment, and you need to justify the ROI to your leadership. So our goal as practitioners, I feel also is, with our clients internally, is to really guide them to have a solid, defined business impact. Like what you were talking about is, how do we get more involved so you can do more? Now, that more could be in terms of maybe more sales, maybe more higher satisfaction, more satisfactory experiences. Whatever that more is, that key business goal needs to be defined upfront. And that, what we recommend is, should really become the guiding light for such journey projects. Because otherwise, I don't know if this has ever happened with you, Reeva, has happened to a lot of our clients, where they do a lot of good journey work, collect a lot of good insights, and then they often deal with a situation which is best described as analysis paralysis, where so much good insights come out that they're now sort of overwhelmed with, well, this looks good and this looks good too, and we have to do that. How do we prioritize? How do we begin with? And so our guidance always is, well, have that business goal be upfront, that at the end of this project, this needs to happen in moving our business needle. And the whole project needs to be designed for that. So I felt, what you shared was wonderful. And I truly agree with that. And I wanted to build a little bit on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel like it can be overwhelming, or it can feel overwhelming, I think, at times. But to your point, you have to start somewhere, right? And being able to make a defined objective and then measure it. And it's okay. Not every time are you going to get a huge win, right? But as long as you're doing more good than harm, you can test and learn, and you can try something different the next iteration, right? Until you find that sweet spot. But that makes absolute sense on how it can be a bit daunting, a bit overwhelming, but making those clear objectives and figuring out how to get there is the key to success.
Wonderful, Reeva. Well, thank you so much. With that, we're at the end of this episode. I think our viewers will definitely, I like to say, they'll pick up a lot of gold in your commentary. So I really appreciate you taking the time out. And I think people will learn a lot. So thank you so much.
Well, great. Thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity and enjoy the conversation.